Well, obviously, students are heading off to schools right across New South Wales today, Peter, and early morning starting now. We're asking parents to listen to the advice of principals. We've got some staggered drop-off times, we know, at some of our schools. But, it'd be interesting to see how things go throughout the day. I know our schools are well prepared, and I think a lot of parents, frankly, are just quite relieved that their children can be back in the classrooms from today.
Yep. Well, I know transport's not your portfolio, but are you getting any reports about, is that all running smoothly, getting kids to school through the public transport system?
Yeah, well, look, obviously we've been saying to parents, if you can avoid public transport, if you can drop your kids to school or walk, or they can ride their bike, Andrew Constance has been pretty strong on that messaging up over the last day or two. But look, we know that everyone's going to have some common sense here. We've got a lot of kids back out and about heading to school this morning, but I'll be certainly interested to see how that goes and getting some reports later on today.
I know it's law now, but are you expecting, full attendance?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're back to normal, so rolls will be marked. If any children are there or absent for any reason, they'll be followed up. Again, we just want some common sense from our families. We're back to normal teaching and learning in the classroom. But, of course, if your children are unwell, in normal times, maybe you would send them off if they've got a bit of a cold or a runny nose. We are still saying, please keep your kids at home if they are sick. But if they're well, we expect normal attendance to start from today.
OK, so what are the rules that are in place, for parents out there who might not know yet? What are the rules that take place today? I know that's, parents aren't allowed to be in the drop-off areas, or they can't get out of their car, but what are some of the other systems that are in place to protect the kids?
Yeah, so some of the extra guidelines which we've had roll out over the last couple of weeks with that managed return, things like extra cleaning at all of our schools, or 2,200 public schools across the state are having additional cleaning throughout the day. We've got hand sanitisers, we've got social distancing measures in place for any adults on school sites. But we've also said to schools, no big or large assemblies, no inter-school sports competitions. A lot of schools will say to parents, no, unfortunately you can't come in the school gates unless it's an emergency, and be conscious of those sort of things at drop-off and pick-up time. We don't want to see parents congregating at the school gates. The risk is actually to adults on school sites, not children. So we do need to be quite careful about that, and I think parents just need to listen to their principals about what you need to do at your specific school based on that physical location.
Are you expecting teething problems this morning?
Oh, look, I'm hoping no. I mean, I think that our schools have done an amazing job over the last few months to help our children and families get used to where we are now. We had a good couple of weeks with children returning at least a day a week. And look, I think it will be a little bit different, and, it's sort of a new normal in terms of some of the things we'll see in our schools. And I think particularly for some students, our kindergarten children, for example, it's almost like their first day, because they really only had that 6 or 7 weeks of term one, and then they've had this period of learning from home. So look, there could be a few little niggles that come through, but look, we're hoping that in the main things go well.
So what about teachers? What's being done to protect them, and how can you assuage any concerns that they might have?
Well, look, I think, as I said, those extra cleaning measures and hygiene supplies, making sure that we've got social distancing on school sites for adults. We've set very clear guidelines to schools about how they can implement that. But we're also following the health advice. If there are any teachers that are over a certain age or have any health conditions that mean that they can't be at work, they are able to work remotely, and we'll continue to follow that health advice and work with our teachers in that regard.
Well, what is the protocol for when breakouts inevitably do occur? We had one last week that took place in Sydney, at a private school in Sydney. But so what system is in place for when there is a positive case that emerges?
So, look, Pete, we've had more than 15 schools in New South Wales have a positive case, whether it's been a student or a teacher or a member of the school community over the last couple of months, and we've got a really good system. So when that does happen, and it will, and I think the Premier's been quite open about there will be times when we do need to enact these policies in our schools. We come in, we close the school for at least a day. Health come and do contact tracing, so anyone who might have been in the vicinity of the affected person is asked to self-isolate. We do a thorough clean in line with health protocols, and then we can welcome students back. So we've got good systems in place, and I think parents should be reassured by that.
OK, and just finally, I know Tanya Plibersek has been calling for this in recent weeks, asking for students to undertake catch-up lessons for those who may have fallen behind. Is that something that you would support?
Yeah, look, I think what we need to do is get our children back in the classroom, and we're certainly supporting our teachers to do what they can to assess students' learning, how they've progressed while they've been at home. I think that's been happening over the last few weeks anyway, but we're giving additional support for that because we need to know. We need to know if there are areas where there are gaps, and then it's about looking at how we can support our schools. So again, I think just a common sense approach. Have our children back in the classroom, assess where they're up to in their learning, and then see what other support we need to do.